So I'm back with another video, and this is kind of going to be a little bit of a strange week for me because, like, today is kind of a planning day because I've got a lot of things to get organized and, that requires time and energy, but I wanted to kind of take a bit of time and come make a video because over the weekend, from Friday to yesterday, I was out of town. So, you know, I didn't want to make videos because I was spending time with my niece and my two nephews, and they're little, and that means a lot of attention goes to them, which means I'm not taking any time to do anything else other than to play with them and get hugs and kisses and all of that. But I'm back, and I kind of had this thought because I've been thinking a lot about characters. And, I'll just admit, I kind of watched a bit of number one Marmaduke fans video. I saw a little bit of it and, I agreed with him. And so I thought, you know, for me as a writer, going deeper into the idea of strong female characters. Because one thing I can always say, and this is even when I thought myself to be more liberal leaning or leftist or, certainly on that spectrum, one of the things that has always bothered me about female characters is this trend toward feminist characters, this trend toward the ice queen trope, the masculine female, the strong independent woman. And, you know, even if I thought that I abided by that kind of ideology at the time, I'll admit there was always something that was kind of unpalatable about that to me. And, you know, the older I've gotten, the more conservative I've gotten, the more I've come to understand what it is. And it's this idea, and Andrew Clavin said this best, this was probably a couple of years ago, like this idea that feminism has is that in order to be a strong female character, you have to essentially be a mediocre man. And that really kind of bothers me because one of the things that I do believe is men and women are different. And we really should accept that as being the truth, that men and women are different. Therefore, what would be considered a strong male character should not, it wouldn't follow that the same things that would make a strong male character would make a strong female character. And so I kind of, in the little time that I had, as I was thinking about this video, I kind of came up a little bit with a few talking points about creating a strong female character because, I'm a writer and I have men and women in my story. I am a woman and I do, thoroughly believe that having good female characters, is kind of a must because there has to be a reason to keep reading. And like one of the problems that I've always had with especially like the romance genre and things like that is that you have like these unpalatable female characters and we're supposed to think that their bad behavior is cute and they run the guy through the ringer the whole book and somehow this guy is still supposed to love them and this woman gets the guy at the end and you sit there and you think that's not a real man. So if anything, let's think about it in terms of, a strong female character working with a strong male character creates a nice balance. You have to kind of have the two because they have to kind of be in complement to each other. I do believe that that's, how all relationships should be. It should be a form of, complementariness, which is not a word, but you get my meaning. They should complement each other. So when I look for doing a strong female character, the first thing I understand is that strong female characters has nothing to do with being a feminist. It has nothing to do with, you know, doing this attitude or having this attitude of women can do anything, because women can't always do anything, just as men can't always do anything. And this is where the differences between men and women come in. When we, have these female characters, and you have, like in the movies, where you have like 120-pound woman, kicking the butt of, a 200-pound man. You sit there and you look at that and you go, that's completely unnatural, because it's not reality. And even if you're writing something like fiction, there is, even in fantasy and things like that, there's still that base of reality and realism. And, as I talk about this, I am thinking about my own characters, and I'm thinking about, a lot of the scenes and things that I put the characters in, and having that understanding that, the woman who runs around acting as if she can handle absolutely everything is an unlikable character, because in real life, nobody wants to deal with that type of woman. No real man wants to deal with that type of woman. And that's why we see a lot of the broken relationships that we have, because, there's that attitude of, you know, we don't, women don't need men, and women can handle everything, and women can do absolutely anything. And, it kind of creates this sort of like fragility in women that has nothing to do with vulnerability, because a strong female character, in my mind, and certainly in what I look for in the creation of other female characters and in my own female characters, is there is that level of vulnerability as a woman. It's the notion that you can't really handle everything on your own. It's the acknowledgement that you don't necessarily want to have to handle, everything on your own. And this is someone who, I've been at times where I've had to handle everything on my own, and that's not a fun feeling, because I don't believe that women just like, being having to handle things on their own. There is, a sort of desire to have someone come alongside you and work with you and kind of take some of the pressure off. So it's, you know, there's that vulnerability that says, I know that I really need help. And if I have to do it, then I'll do it, but I don't necessarily want to do it. And so, you know, it creates in that strong male character that need to help. But if you have a female who, wants none of that, and everything is, always about, what they can handle and whatnot, then it shouldn't be surprising when those kind of female characters get themselves into situations that they cannot then handle. So I would say, if you're having a character that's like that kind of feministy character and whatnot, you know, I think reality speaking, they would inevitably end up in a situation that they couldn't necessarily handle. And once they end up in that kind of situation that they can't handle, that should be a learning experience. So certainly, I don't say, you know, never have a feminist character, because you can always have, a character that sort of like is that mediocre man kind of personality, the ice queen and stuff like that. But if they never have a moment of vulnerability, of feminine vulnerability, then they'll never end up being a strong female character, because they'll never have a period of of growing or changing. So what does that mean? That means, in that vulnerability, it means you're talking about a female character who knows their limits. They know what they can and cannot handle. They know in a conversation, they know in dealing with people, they know, they have that awareness of their vulnerability. They have that awareness of the fact that, every situation is not necessarily a good situation. Like, think about horror movies and things like that, you know, you have to kind of like, you kind of have to have the female characters, by themselves and think about how they react in that situation. They're in a house, think the movie Scream, with Drew Barrymore, where, you're home alone, it's fun and games, then you get the phone call and you're going through and you know and then your vulnerabilities start to come out because now you're starting to understand, oh my goodness, I'm in the house by myself, there's this strange caller, they're talking, you know like they're talking crazy talk, like I'm really getting the sense that I am in danger. And if you're not writing horror, but if you're writing like an action, if you're writing like an action book or an action comic or anything like that, it's still like that same kind of thing. Like, if there's a fire going on, you may want to run in, and save the child that's in the fire. But, in reality, a normal woman would look for someone to help. And then if you didn't, then maybe you would take that risk of going in, because a feminine trait is normally that idea of desiring safety, desiring, steadiness, and, not really wanting to take a risk. Now, of course, you're going to have those that are going to be different, in that regard. But this is all about kind of like, we're creating well rounded characters where that even if, they kind of fall into the outlier levels, of normal female behavior, there's still that basis of, you know, yeah, there goes my rice cooker. Oh, rice cooker. It sings to me when it's done. But okay. But there's, even if you have a female character that is an outlier, you're going to still have like the majority of traits and things like that are still going to fall relatively within majority female understanding. It may not be like true middle. It may be like more toward the edge, but there's still going to be, that kind of understanding because, that's kind of, you know, well rounded. That's kind of how, things like that work. I would say that I'm kind of, a unique woman, but when I say things and generalizations and things like that about women, there's still that understanding that there will be times that I could also fall into that category of generalizations, even if it isn't all the time. I'm still a woman, so there's still, that tendency to go there, and last thing I would probably say about, you know, um, strong female characters and things like that, I and I think this is kind of like with all characters. Like, I think we all like to think that we're perfect, and we kind of say it as a joke, at least kind of in my experience, because we know that we're not perfect. That's why it becomes the excuse that we fall back on. And so, you know, getting out of the Mary Sue tendency and things like that, you cannot have a perfect female character. You can't have a female that does absolutely everything and does absolutely everything well. I've read stories like that, and I cannot stand those female characters because it's sort of like, why are we even reading this story because there's nothing about this character that makes her remotely interesting. I think I've talked about Mary Sue's before, but you know, I will I will continue to say it. Mary Sue's are unpalatable because we need those vulnerabilities. We need those character traits that are not perfect. We need that humanity, in our characters. We need our people to be human. And that essentially is the biggest thing. If you're creating a strong female character, then you have to have a female character that is human, that, has the ability to, be confronted with things and grow and change and adapt and, go through all those things and, come to a different knowledge of themselves. And, you know, not that they can't be strong, because certainly they can find their strength, and they can find their strength, I guess, to a degree, somewhat physically, if that's the kind of story that you're writing, as long as I think that there's a reality base, but certainly mentally, emotionally, you know, things like that. Like, there should be growth involved in all characters, but I think particularly in female characters, because I think that there's been this growing trend of trying to present females as being absolutely perfect, or, you know, yeah, to the point that they're almost overbearing. And then you have like the weak, wimpy men. Like, if you watch commercials, like, again and again and again, and this is in, like, kids television shows, like, the woman is always doing everything and the guy is just like this useless prop. And that's not a well-rounded female character. And, you know that's something that, for me, is essential in needing to be changed, because we need well-rounded characters to make a really great, grounded, interesting story. Because, remember, as I said in a video before, our characters, are interacting in our story. So you really kind of need that complement of characterization, that will draw the reader in, so that we can begin to see and understand, you know, what's going on with the characters and the story. And, we want to be invested in their lives and what they're doing, where they're going, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I'm going to leave it. I know I'm not going to do a video tomorrow because the Labor Cup is coming to Chicago. If you're a tennis fan, then you know what the Labor Cup is. If you're not a tennis fan, then the Labor Cup is essentially a special male tournament where players from Europe play against tennis players across the world. And so I'm volunteering for that, and I'm really excited about that because I love tennis. I love Nole in particular, and Nole is going to be there this year. So I'm really excited. Um, so tomorrow, that's going to be all day because I signed up for all day service. Um, so yeah, it's pretty much going to be a bit of a strange week for me, and already strange weeks, but certainly the plan is to keep doing videos. And so thank you to those who have taken the chance of subscribing to this channel. I really hope to be able to grow that and just grow as a storyteller myself, grow in, my understanding and in conversing, and, just kind of like helping others who, maybe, not as far along in the writing process as I've been, just as I would love to learn from those who are even further in the writing process than I am. And, I know that I will be talking about things like comics because, comics is an interest. And, according to Zach, uh, Iron Sights is finished printing and that they'll be on their way to him and then they'll be on their way out. And so I will be excited when I get that because I do plan to read it and review it and talk about the storytelling. Because I can't really say much about John Malin's art because I love his art and, Brett Smith's coloring, like just in what we've seen is just top notch. So I really want to talk about it from a storytelling point of view. So with that, if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, share. Let's build something around storytelling and just creating well-roundedness in hobbies and entertainment mediums and all of that. And because that's really what I want. And so I will see you in the next video. Bye.